Hey everyone, it's Selena here. Thanks for joining me on this Design Space lesson. In this video, we are going to go over the difference between uploading a basic image versus a vector image. And the difference between the two is pretty self-explanatory when it comes to Design Space. It's on there, it tells you what the difference is. This one will tell you what types of images can be uploaded using basic, so that's going to be a JPEG, GIF, PNG, or BMP, and then the vector upload is going to be an SVG or a DXF file. And so the difference between the two, a basic upload is for images with a single layer, and vector uploads will have either one layer or multiple layers. So in this example, for basic upload, I'm going to show you two. I'm going to upload a JPEG and also a PNG. So our first layer that I'm going to insert is this Jack Skellington image. And we're just going to use a simple image because it's just a basic black and white image. So I'm going to select simple image, continue to the next step. And you can see my frozen image. For some reason it's showing on there from the last image that I pulled in, but it'll go away. My Skellington is still uploading, taking a little while. My Design Space has been running a little slow, so I apologize for the delay here. Okay. So there's the Jack Skellington image. Now, as you can see, there's a white box around the image. That's exactly how I downloaded the image. It was a JPEG. It had a white background to it. So when you upload it into your next step to clean it up, you're going to see that white area. Now, if you do not clean up that white area, your image is going to cut just the way you see it. So, if you use this preview eye here, this little eye here means preview. When I click on that, you're going to see a red outline of a box or a rectangle. And so that is exactly what's going to cut out. So just always remember that red lines are cut lines. So if I go back and I choose this little magic wand here and I click on the white area, it all disappears and you can see my blue and white checkered area all around the image. So now when I click on the eye, you're going to see that I have the eyes, the little nostrils, and the stitched mouth. And that's exactly what I want to be cut. So I'm good to go. So I'm going to go on to the next step to save it and load it into my mat. And this is always defaulted to be checked. This is for print and cut. I'm not going to be printing this, so I'm going to uncheck it and go on to the next step. Okay, so let's insert that into our mat. And as you can see, in my layers panel, it has the little scissors and it shows that that's going to be cut out. So that's good. Okay, I'm going to move this over to the side and I'm going to go back and upload another image using basic upload. And let's choose this Texans logo. We're going to say that we're going to use this for also cutting. I'm not going to be printing this. So let's choose simple image. Just give it a little moment. There we go. Okay, so for this instance, I'm going to use, let's say, an iron-on vinyl. I don't need all these different, I don't need Houston Texans. I just want the little bull logo. So we're going to do several things to clean up. We're going to clean up that white area. We're going to clean up the little white area in the eye. and I don't need the Houston Texans area. So you can either click on each one, you can use the eraser, make the eraser a little bit bigger, erase that, or you can use this little crop tool here, and when you drag around the image you want to keep. Let go, and it kept that area there. So here we go, use a preview. We got our cut lines, let's back it out. Everything looks great. And we're going to continue to the next step. Right here it says preserve, for printing. I'm not going to print this, I'm going to uncheck it. So when you see that I go on to the next step, when you uncheck that, it's going to take out the details of what would have been printed, and it's just going to be the outlines. So when I save that image and you look at the bottom, you're going to see it turn black. And the reason that it's black is because it's just going to cut. There's no printing of any type of colors. I can, load my vinyl, use black or red or white or whatever I wanted to do there. Let's say, I'm going to use the same example, but I'm going to say I want to use the same thing as layering or using vinyl, iron-on vinyl, but I want to have the colors of what the actual logo is, which would be the red, the navy blue, on that horn, on that bowl. So I'm going to go back, and I'm going to upload this 2 times. 2 times because I want to get 2 layers. So I'm going to use this little crop tool here, zoom out. I'm going to crop it down to that. I'm going to delete the eye, and I'm going to delete the red area. So this is going to be, let's undo that because I deleted a little bit of that navy blue area. So here we go, deleting this. Continue to the next step. I'm going to uncheck that. Save it. Go back. Upload the same image again. But this time, I'm going to keep the red part and delete the navy blue part. So, deleting all that, cropping it down to that, using my eraser, and deleting the navy part, keeping the red. Okay, that looks good. On to the next step, uncheck that because I'm not printing it. And now we're going to load this one and this one into my map. Now as you can see, it pulled in a little bit off on the sizes, so let me size that because you can use this for reference on what it should look like. So I'm going to scoot this in a little bit. Right about there. So this one here is red. So I'm going to change this to red so that I know to load the red vinyl on my mat. And then I'm going to change this one to the navy blue so that I know to load the navy blue vinyl on this mat. So that's one way to get a layered look or layered image using basic upload. But for the most part, when you want to cut several layers on a project, you want to be sure to either have an SVG image so that all your layers are already there for you, or you can do it manually just the way I did. But see, for this example, that was really easy. I mean, that was just 2 easy little layers to clean up and pull into the mat. But when you get into more detailed images and getting them to be cleaned up and trying to get every single layer, it's very time consuming, and it can be frustrating just to try and get that perfect layer each time. So these we can group them together just so that they move together when you move them around. So I'm going to go ahead and move this on over. Okay, I'm going to go back, still using basic upload. I'm going to upload a PNG so that you can see between a PNG and a JPEG. A JPEG is most likely going to have a background, like a white background or some type of background. And with the PNG, for the most part, you're not going to have a background. So I'm going to use this Frozen as an example. For this one, I would print and cut it. And so I'm going to choose the complex images because there's lots of little details in the dress, and I'm going to show you what it looks like between the three. So if I do choose simple image, and you can see it gives you examples of your pictures. So here's very basic, no shadowing, no kind of details going on in there, dull colors. This one, you know, just a little bit more details that are showing up. And then this one is, of course, the colors are pretty much perfect, just the way it should look on the picture. All the details show up. So by using a simple image on this one, you're going to see it's very dull. There's probably not going to be very many colors going on in there. Look at that. You cannot see any type of details in the face. That is not something I would want to print. So let's go back. Let's choose moderately complex. And it'll probably get a little bit better, but the colors are going to look a little muddled. You know, still doesn't look great for printing. And then you choose complex images and it looks just the way it should. Perfect. Okay, you're going to choose this preview. You could see there's no background that I needed to delete. The outline is there. Everything's perfect. Continue to the next step, and we will leave that checked, because we do want to print that. If I unchecked it, then we're just going to get a cut. There's not going to be anything. It's going to be a black, you know, blob of the frozen silhouette. Nothing will be there. So we're going to keep that checked. Okay, let's pull that into the mat. And you can see that my layer is one layer, and it's defaulted to print. So we're good to go with that. Okay, the next example, let's go on to vector upload. And let's choose this Hello Kitty Jason. She's cute. You can find this file and lots more free SVGs at craftynook.blogspot.com. She has a lot of cute images out there, so check her out. So this is an SVG. With SVGs, there's no cleaning up to do. You just upload the image and insert it into your mat. I'm going to save that. And it uploaded just the way it should in color. It's going to have all these different layers I'll show you in the next screen. So let's select her, pull her into the mat. Okay, and with her file, she has her website right here at the bottom. So most likely you're probably not going to want to cut that out. So let's ungroup her. And when you ungroup her, then you can select whatever you need to delete. So we'll delete that part. And then we'll select all of her again and regroup her, just so that all the layers are together when you are trying to size her, so that everything is proportioned correctly. So now you can see that here's my SVG. Here are all the little layers that are going to cut out. If I pull up my sync mat or my sync panel, you're going to see all the different layers of cardstock or whatever you're using, vinyl, that you'll be cutting out. So we'll close that out. Now there's some SVGs that you can purchase or even download for free that also include a PNG file or a JPEG file or both. And for this example with the Crafty Nook image, she doesn't include any type of JPEG or PNG. So, you know, if I wanted to print print her out instead of layering her, it's still possible. All you would need to do is flatten the image. And when you flatten the image, you're going to notice all these little layers are now combined into one. And you can see the little printer icon there. So you'll see that she's going to print out. So now if I pull up my sync panel, only the ones over here to the far right, excluding this frozen image, are going to be what I'm loading onto my mat as far as like cardstock or vinyl. And then these two here are going to be printed. So I'm going to size this Hello Kitty accordingly. We don't want her too big because, you know, depending on what browser you're using, depends on the size that you can print. So I'm using Chrome, so I think the largest that I can print in height is probably 6.5 inches. But the width, that might be too big. So let's just size her down to 6. Okay, and then this one here looks good. So let's click go and see if I'm not too big on this Hello Kitty. Yep, I'm too big on that Hello Kitty. So let's go back. I think it might be the width that's too big. Let's put her width at 6 inches. Click on go. Still too big. Okay. Okay, let's put her at 5.5. And that will be fixed eventually. I know that within the next several months or the beginning of next year, I believe that they're looking at changing the sizes to be able to print so that you can print bigger than the 6.5 or whatever the max is for that. So right now, I actually have a couple of other print and cut images that I had in my mat when I first started this video, and I did want to go over that really quickly. What I did here, let's close out of this because I completely forgot that this was going to load up first. But I did want to show you, give you an example on print and cut when doing text. I've seen out there where, you know, somebody wants something to be printed, either like on an invitation or a card or something, and they're wondering, why does my text look, you know, it doesn't look right. The ink is all, it's not legible. And the reason for that is because when you're doing text and you want it to print on like a card base or something, you need to make sure that the text is actually attached to something so that it's not going to be cut out individually. And that's why I'm giving 2 examples here. So for this first one here, all I did was I inserted the text and then I flattened it so that it could print. And then I inserted text the same, you know, I just duplicated this one, but then I attached it, I inserted a rectangle, and then I selected the 2 like this, and then I clicked flatten, and what it did was it flattened the text onto the rectangle, and so they will print. So for this example here, it's going to print this out, but it's going to cut out each individual letter because it's not attached to anything. It's just there. So the computer's thinking that, or this, you know, the software is thinking that you want to cut out every single letter. And on this one, it's printing on top of this rectangle, but only the rectangle is going to be cut out. So that's why on the mat, on that first mat, it looked pretty, you know, different between the 2. So the first one on the Happy Halloween, it's the text is very inky, I guess. It's because the print is set to bleed automatically, and what that means is that when you want to print out an image, it's going to print out a little bit extra around the edges so that you get a clean cut. And that's what's happening right here. So it looks, you know, it looks like your printer made a mistake or something when printing, but no, it was right here you can see on your settings it's set to bleed purposely so that when it cuts out every single letter, it's a clean cut. There's no white edges. And on this one you can actually read it. Why? Because it's not going to cut out every single letter. It's going to cut out around this rectangle. Now when you go to the next mat here, you can see, or hopefully you can see, that the edges look, blurred, and that's because it's adding that extra little area to print, a little extra ink around the area, around the edges, so that when it cuts there's no white edges. And then again here it's kind of hard to tell because that Hello Kitty has a pretty thick black line already, but it did add a little bit more. You can see the whiskers look a little thick there, but it's just because it wants to get that clean cut around with no white edges. So that's the good thing about, the Explorer. When printing and cutting, it leaves no white edges. I mean, it looks perfect when it's cut. Now you can take that off. You can see how it changed, and it does tell you, we recommend you to keep the bleed on for optimal print and cut results. If you see as I go, to the previous mat, it looks perfect, like there's no bleed there. But you're likely going to get some white areas because there's no give on the cut. So if, for example, when you calibrated your machine, let's say you were just a little bit off and you couldn't tell, if you don't have that bleed set and your machine isn't calibrated correctly, there might be a little bit of white areas around there. So it's always safe to have that bleed set. Now see, this one here, you can read it perfectly, but because it's going to cut around every single letter, there will be some white areas, white edges, and so that's why it's great to have that bleed on your prints. So I hope that tutorial gave you an insight on the differences between basic upload and vector uploads, and when to keep that printing or preserve for printing box checked, when to uncheck it. The white line, the red lines in your preview when you click the little eye when you're cleaning up your image. Just make sure you always check on that, just to make sure that every single area that you want cut has a red line. So if you have any questions on that, maybe something I missed, just leave me a comment, shoot me a message on Facebook. I'll be happy to answer you. But I hope that helped you out a little bit about, the differences between the two uploads when uploading images into Design Space. So I hope you enjoyed that tutorial, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye-bye.